hopefully you will get online and join us for those. Just please register through our website. But I just want to hand you over here now to Claire. Claire will be starting the webinar here with you all. So Claire, over to you, and I look forward to seeing you later. Okay.
Thank you. So good morning everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to register for this event today and to tune in, and for anyone who is listening back later on playback, thank you very much. So today this webinar is probably going to be about 40-45 minutes of me chatting, and then hopefully at the end we'll have a chance for some questions. Put any questions you have in the chat, and then at the end of this session, Claire will read out some of the questions to me. So feel free to jot down any questions at all. That's what I'm here for today. So really, what I want you to take away from this is, when I work with people, it's very important for me when I talk to people that I just don't tell people what to do, but explain the why behind it, because that way I think people engage a lot better. So today I'm going to explain to you all why sleep is so important for health. And what I want from this is that you can take away 3, 4, or 5 different tips and strategies that you can introduce almost immediately to your life, and will feel the benefits of it, not just tonight, but hopefully for a better night's sleep every night. And before I kick off, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. So as you know, my name is Clare Hegarty. I'm a nutritionist and a health coach, and I work a lot in the area of sleep. I spent many years in the corporate world before going back to college and retraining, studying and retraining to become a nutritionist. My journey into nutrition was a really personal one, born out of my own desire to help one of my children. And it has really gone from there. Now I'm very fortunate to work with lots of corporates to basically help them put health and wellness at the core of their business. For me, it is, you know, a healthy business and a thriving business is one that has teams of people who are healthy and well, both physically and mentally. I work with a lot of busy women, women who are both professional women and moms. I do a lot of work around children's nutrition. It's an area that's very close to my heart. And yes, so generally work as a nutritionist, but have a huge demand lately for advice and support around sleep. And I'm going to share all of those tips and strategies with you today. And so you sit back now for a half an hour, 40 minutes, and listen and jot down any notes. I think this webinar will be saved, and you can listen back on it if I go too fast or there's too much information. But I've tried to simplify it in a way that you'll get enough information to understand the importance of sleep, but also to be able to do a lot with it. So I'm going to just kick off. And thank you actually to Women in Business for having me here today. I'm absolutely delighted. So first off, what I'm seeing at the moment is that across the board, people are working from home. Life has changed. Our children are being homeschooled. Life has been turned upside down in terms of what we would normally know as regular working, sleeping, eating patterns. And I find in the main that sleep is being impacted. So yes, I have clients past and present contacting me to say that their eating habits aren't great, they're not getting a lot of exercise or movement, but predominantly their sleep is being impacted. And I think what is happening in the main is that our bedtimes are shifting, they're drifting later, our children are going to bed later, getting up later in the morning, and getting up at irregular times. So it's probably, I'd say most of you will understand that sleep has a very big impact on physical and mental health. But I think in general, people do not realize just how significantly sleep does impact our health. And one of the questions that I have been asked a lot by people is, why, Claire, is sleep so important? And I think this quote by Professor Matthew Walker, who is a sleep scientist and has fabulous materials on YouTube. He has a couple of books out. You can look him up, and if anyone's interested in finding out more about sleep and the role it plays, he has some fabulous resources available online. But what he says is there isn't any system within your body or process within your brain that isn't enhanced by sleep when you get enough of it, or demonstrably impacted when you don't. And I think that pretty much sums up how significant sleep is to our health. A lot of people I work with are under the perception that exercise and diet are probably two of the main pillars of health. And at one point in time, when I first studied nutrition and came out as had, you know, just with a wealth of nutritional information, thinking that nutrition held all the answers, I learned very, very quickly when I started to work with people that in fact, some people had a great diet and ran marathons and practiced yoga a couple of days a week, but their sleep was really impacted. So as I became aware that people who came to see me to get some support around nutrition were struggling with other areas in their lives, such as sleep, and I see large numbers of people who suffer from stress and anxiety, I realized then that nutrition was actually only one piece of the jigsaw, a very important piece, I might add. And as a nutritionist, obviously, that is something that I do a lot of work in. But today, really, my focus is on sleep. And I went back to study sleep as a result of that. I've studied sleep now for several years and probably will go on to continue to study in this field for as long as I'm working in it, because the science is ever evolving. Thankfully, there is so much significant and very important sleep research coming out that shows the huge impact sleep is having, particularly on our children. And I look forward in the years to come to seeing more sleep programs available in schools and community groups for our kids, and as well as corporate organizations who can understand the impact that their staff being sleep deprived will have, not just on their mental health, but on their performance in work. So here are some facts. We sleep for a third of our lives. For me, that is very significant because it shows us again that Mother Nature wanted us to sleep for a significant amount of time, and for good reason. 2/3 of people do not get the recommended 8 hours sleep a night. 8 hours has been, the number really has been rolled out by the World Health Organization. If you don't know them already from COVID-19, they inform public health. And 8 hours is the general recommendation, but it can range anything from 7 to 9. Less than 6 hours of sleep, studies have been done to show a very measurable impact on health. Sleep and lack of it exacerbates both anxiety and depression, and really there is no mental health condition that doesn't have sleep at the core. Either sleep deprivation, poor sleep, fragmented sleep, or in the case of insomniacs, very, very little sleep. And sleep costs the UK economy approximately £40 billion per year. So, sleep, the foundation of good health. It affects everything. It affects our physical health, it affects our immune health. But what I often find is that because it is not mainstream, and because people are not talking about it the same way they talk about diet and weight and exercise, people really are not connecting with sleep the way they need to. But I often describe to people as sleep being your emotional first aid. When we go to sleep at night, so many things happen in our brain. All of the other organs in our body go into sleep mode, rest mode, and that's really, really important for us to be able to wake up the next day and be able to start digesting food again and feel the best we can. But when we go to sleep at night, our brain goes into overdrive. And I describe it to people as like the cleaners coming in overnight. We have so many things that happen, from memories being bedded down to processing things that happened to us during the day. But something else happens which is really significant, is that our brain flushes out toxins. Some of our brain cells will shrink significantly to let a fluid wash around our brain and clear away all the toxins from that day. Lack of sleep has been linked to a range of things: anxiety, depression. It's now been strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease. The build-up of plaque in the brain is more rampant when people are not getting significant night's sleep. And believe it or not, it also has a huge impact on weight. The reason is that we have two hormones in our body. One's called leptin, the other's called ghrelin. And essentially what they do is they keep absolutely everything ticking over in terms of are we hungry? Have we been filled up? Giving our body signals that we need more food. But what happens when we're lacking in sleep, or we have very fragmented sleep, is our leptin and ghrelin hormones don't behave the way they need to. So instead of ghrelin telling us that we've had enough to eat, we don't need to eat anymore, it does actually the opposite, and we never feel full. And what will often happen when we are tired is that we make not the best food choices. When it comes to food choices, our decisions aren't great. We go for the more starchy type, the white breads, the lovely bit of white bread toast with lots of butter and a big cup of tea, or some people will go for a bar of chocolate to get that hit. So you can probably see already very quickly into this presentation that there are so many areas of health that are impacted by sleep and lack of it. One of the other things to mention, which is a really hot topic at the moment, as a lot of you know, is the immune system and the role it plays. So immunity and sleep are inextricably linked. You cannot have a poor night's sleep and not have an immune system that is compromised. It can reduce your body's natural killer cells by up to 70%. So those are the cells that keep us healthy and keep us fighting off pathogens and disease and so on. And when it comes to the flu, they actually recently took a group of people and quarantined them and gave them either 4 or 5 hours sleep a night. And then they got the flu spray and put it up their noses, and basically what they found was those individuals who got 5 hours of sleep for one single night had a 200 to 300 increase in getting the flu. So their chances of getting the flu increased by up to 300%, which is very, very significant. And the other thing about sleep is that several years ago, the World Health Organization linked shift work to it being a probable carcinogen. So shift workers who work not outside of daylight hours and who work for long periods of time in shift working positions, studies have been done that show their propensity to certain types of cancers is increased. So I want to talk to you about stress. And the reason I want to talk to you about stress is because, as I said, nutrition and sleep is something I work in, and you know, a lot of people will contact me, corporates will contact me about health and wellness programs, and women contact me one-to-one to work with me to improve their diet and their lifestyle. And very often when someone comes to see me, you know, the first thing I will do is provide a very detailed questionnaire, either working with a HR professional or someone one-to-one or a family, to understand what the big picture is. Because very much I need to understand, okay, this person has a good diet, but what is their sleep like? Because if you have a great diet and you're not sleeping, you're not healthy. How much are you moving? What are your stress levels like? How much are you relaxing? And so on. I find that stress is probably something that 90% of the people I work with suffer from at some level. And it was classified several years ago as the health epidemic of the 21st century. 80% of all GP visits are believed to be stress related, whether it's digestive issues, lack of sleep, anxiety, depression, gut issues, lack of libido. There are just so many different GP categories that can show that stress plays a huge part. Stress, as any of you know, and I'm sure many of you on the call today, including myself, you know, stress is in our lives, and unfortunately it's not going anywhere. But sleep can play a part in it. If you're very stressed, if you're working to a deadline, or there's a lot going on either at work or in your family, you will find that it is difficult to get over to sleep. And what stress does is stress prevents our body from being in a thrive state. So when we are in a stress state, we are at our peak. We are trying to protect ourselves. Our heart rate is pumping. We have lots of chemicals flooding around our body. It's our body's way of protecting us. But unfortunately, most of us live in that state all of the time, and it diverts energy away from all of the really essential processes in our body. Our digestion, our gut health, our brain, absolutely everything is taken away to help us when we're in the stress state. We unfortunately are getting to a point now where our bodies are getting into that stress state before we even leave the house in the morning. Back in the days when we were all leaving the house and going to work, we were waking up, running late for work, had 3 or 4 children to organise to get to school. Someone forgot a lunch, someone else needed something else. You had a early meeting that you needed to cancel or restructure, and before you know it, you haven't left the house in the morning and your body is in a high state of stress. Stress also changes the profile of your gut microbiome, and your gut microbiome is so significantly important for health. So I mention stress not just because of its impact on sleep, but I mention it because it's something that I see time and time again with the people I work with. And I would go as far as to say that over the last number of weeks and months during lockdown, I have seen it increase even further. There are things that you can do to help stress levels, some of which would be building in daily meditation, which is very, very powerful. Not the sitting cross-legged, meditating or chanting for 3 or 4 hours on end, simply downloading an app on your phone. They're very reasonably priced. Some of them are free. Take 10 minutes in the morning to calm your nervous system down, and your body will thank you profoundly for it. Your skin, your mental health, your sleep, how you are for the rest of the day, you will find huge benefits when you meditate. And you can start with as little as 1 to 2 minutes per day. So, productivity and sleep. I suppose this doesn't just relate to corporate businesses. It relates, we're all learning, we're all trying to be productive every day, whether it's in work or at home. And what I find in the main is that, similar to what I talked about when it comes to stress, people just can't switch off. They really, really find it hard to switch off. And that's what we need to be able to do to protect ourselves. So yes, stress is there. I don't think anyone has a magic wand that is going to get rid of it, but there are ways and means that we can help ourselves switch off. Whether it's work pressure, whether it's home pressure at home, whether it's the worry of, you know, the current state that we find ourselves in, and most of us, myself included, having to completely relook at my business and how I work. Most of my work would have been in-house, or people coming to see me one-to-one. So pressure is everywhere, but really it's about either seeking help or finding ways and means that you can essentially make that work for you, or at least not to allow it to impact all aspects of your life. Lack of sleep, as anyone who will know, who has had 2 or 3 nights of disrupted sleep, never mind no sleep, you know how that impacts on your concentration and focus, your I suppose your fuses. We find that we maybe react to things quicker, or that we just can't concentrate on that email or that task I have to do at home. So when it comes to productivity, sleep plays a massive part. And sleep is known as being one of the most powerful performance enhancers. A very interesting study that I recently picked up was that 17 hours of being awake, and that is reality for a lot of us, I'm afraid. You know, we're waking up early in the morning and we work throughout the day. For me, I start working at night because I've 3 children to homeschool and a business to run. So when they're sorted out and dinner's sorted out and the house is half tidied, I will sit down and start working, because that's the only chance I get to work in this new world of ours. So 17 hours of being awake is very normal for a lot of people. Unfortunately, these days, some children are actually getting close to that number as well. But when people who were awake for 17 hours were studied, their blood alcohol level had the equivalent of 5%. Their performance on tasks was equivalent to those who had a blood alcohol level of 5%. So what that means in real terms is that if you've been working long hours and long days, 16, 17 hours, and you get up the next day and you either head into the office, you're going in having had a few pints of beer or a few glasses of wine. That's the equivalent in terms of how you can focus and concentrate and be productive in work. And it's the same at home. So again, you can see another example that a lot of us can relate to is how sleep affects all aspects of our life, productivity being one of them. Because I think nowadays, I know as a mom, I am just having to juggle, you know, spin so many plates. I have so many hats on during the day, it's unbelievable. So I think we need to look at our productivity levels, and we need to look at our sleep patterns to see if there is some way that we can balance those out. Diet and sleep. So I'm going to mention food, obviously, and I'm going to mention diet because it's a significant part of what I do. As I said at the start, diet is not everything. And actually, some of the slimmest people I work with are the most unhealthy. So weight should never, or BMI is never a strong indication of how healthy you are. That's the first thing I would say. But diet, whilst it's not everything, it does play a very significant role. And there are some things that I'm seeing a lot with the people I work with, mostly community groups. I would do work in some community groups and for some social enterprises in my area. And I will see from the people I'm working with or speaking to that a lot of families' diets are for ultra-processed foods. You know, we have the statistic that I was given was 50% of foods from food shopping that is done by families in Northern Ireland is for ultra-processed food. I would believe that figure to be quite a bit higher, and I would say I would push it up to 70%. But I've no data to back that up. That's the data that's available. I expect it to be a lot more. And when I say ultra-processed food, what I mean by that is anything that has 5 or more ingredients. And I would definitely challenge anyone who's on the call today to go to a supermarket, or when you're next doing your shop, if you're doing it online or if you're doing it in a supermarket, start to look at the packets of things that you're buying. And if they have more than 5 ingredients, or you can't pronounce some of the ingredients on that package, try to look for an alternative. So the other thing about diet and sleep is diet will be massively impacted when you have had a bad night's sleep. I know myself, you know, if I haven't had a great night's sleep, and thankfully I'm very strict when it comes to my sleep. My sleep is non-negotiable at times when I know that my body really needs it. But if I was underslept, and I'm sure a lot of you will relate to this as well, the last thing I want to do is get up in the morning and stand all day making the most beautiful, you know, vegetable laden dishes full of whole foods and plenty of greens. You will ordinarily, a lot of people will go for a food choice that is more convenient. And unfortunately, more convenience leads to more processed foods, and we're back into this cycle. Sleep is affected by what we eat. lots of us in Northern Ireland anyway, I know that our children are eating in excess of the recommended daily amount of sugar by up to 8 cubes worth. So that's quite a lot. And the more sugar we have in our bodies, especially in the evening time, the less chance we will have of having a good uninterrupted night's sleep. So if you take, for example, before you go to bed at night, you're really hungry and you think, okay, I'm starving, I don't want to go to bed, the stomach is rumbling and I need something. And for handiness sake, you might grab a bowl of Cheerios or a bar of chocolate or a couple of plain biscuits. What you're doing is you're flooding your body with sugar. And you go on what we refer to in the nutrition world, and I try not to use any technical jargon at all, but it's known as the blood sugar roller coaster. So you go a little bit like this, and you have your nice little hit of chocolate or your Cheerios or whatever it is, and off you go. Feel great, but you go off to sleep, and then you start to come down as you do on any roller coaster. But the more sugar that you have and the higher you go, the harder you fall. And for some people who come to see me, they'll say, I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, Claire. I'm waking up at 2:30. I'm waking up at 3:30. Don't know what's waking me up. And again, I will have a conversation about their diet and can normally, not always, but I can normally link it to their diet patterns. So just bear in mind that what you eat has an impact on sleep. Before you go to bed, and if you didn't have a good night's sleep, when you get up the next day, you're more than likely sleep deprived, going to grab something that isn't ideal in terms of food choices. And as I mentioned as well, hunger hormones can be massively disrupted when our sleep isn't right. Leptin and ghrelin are the two that I mentioned. Do a bit of, if you're interested in this thing, just have a look and see what you can find. But basically they don't function the way they're meant to, so you'll be more hungry. And when you do eat, after you've sat down and had a lovely meal, if you're sleep deprived, you're thinking, I'm not actually full up. You don't feel full. That's because those hormones are out of sync. And the last thing I would say on diet, because I promised I wasn't going to talk about diet on this webinar, but it is important. Every single second, so however many seconds we've been on this call now, every single second in our body, 30,000 billion processes are happening. And you need the right amount of food, the right amount of sleep, the right amount of movement in order for all of those processes to be happening optimally. And when they're not happening optimally, that's when we see mental health issues, physical issues, cancers, other diseases, when our body is out of sync and our body is in a state of dis-ease. So I want to give a quick mention to the children. I know it's all adults on this call today, and I'm not sure how many of you have kids, but I think it's very, very important to mention. Something that I am extremely passionate about is the state of our children's health, their mental health and their physical health and their future health outcomes. So these are recent statistics that were given to me by someone who works in the field of mental health and reporting of it. 1 in 10 school children in Northern Ireland have a diagnosable mental illness, which to me is really shocking. And I don't think, in fact, that is, again, reflective of the actual figures. And I'm sure that we will see that increasing because of what we've been through over the last few months. 35,000 children were treated by Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, CAMS, in 2018. And the Northern Ireland Children's Commissioner mentioned that mental health issues are manifesting now in children younger and younger. And I mention this because I see sleep deprivation in children. I hear of it through families that I work with. I see it everywhere. And if any of you do have children, just please bear in mind those very recent statistics that were published. We need to do more to help our kids. We slept when we were younger, and I'm not sure of the average age of people on this call, but I know I did, was put to bed at a certain time and slept until a certain time every day consistently. Our children need that, they're on tablets more, and they're sleeping less. And as you can see, it is impacting their health. So Neil's going to do a quick poll. I've just it's really interesting to ask yourself these questions and just see where you sit with these 3 questions. Do you get between 7 and 9 hours sleep a night? Do you read your phone or tablet in bed, or 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed? And when you wake up in the morning, do you feel refreshed? I say those things constantly to everybody I meet or anyone who asks me questions about sleep. Because if I could tackle or help you tackle those 3 areas, then you would be doing very well. So fairly good scores. You get between 7 hours, just over half get between 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. 41% don't. Do you read your phone or tablet in bed or 1 hour before you go to bed? 78%. And when you wake up in the morning, do you feel refreshed? Remarkably, and it's no surprise, but no one said yes. And that is something that you all really need to think about. We have enough, if we are living our lives in a way that is conducive to good sleep and helps us promote good sleep, it does not mean, you know, having a life where you go to bed every night at 7 o'clock and, you know, no phones, no lights out, and no life. It doesn't mean that. But when you're not waking up most mornings feeling refreshed, then you need some support when it comes to your sleep. So I'm going to move on to the tips. It's 20 to 11. I could talk about all of this stuff for the whole day if anybody would stay on, but we don't have that time. And my children will probably be screaming in about 20 minutes. But how much sleep do we need? So what I want from this half of the presentation is to give you, I've given you the why sleep is so important, the many processes in our bodies that are impacted, how massively all of those areas of health are impacted, and all of the things that play a part. But now I'm going to give you some tips. Fairly easy to follow. If you could just pick one of them and run with it and see how you feel after doing it for a week, you will be really, really pleasantly surprised. So how much sleep do you need to get? 8 hours is a recommendation, but 7 to 9 hours, I would always say to people, go with that. See how you feel after 7, see how you feel after 9. It's difficult to know what works well for each person. My approach to nutrition and sleep and all of the programs I do are very personalized, either to the person or the organization I work with, for obvious reasons. But what I would say, the best way to gauge how much sleep you needed for any given night. Remember that I told you anything under 6, there are measurable statistics that will show the impact it's had on health. So 7 is the minimum. But if you go to bed when you don't have to get up the next morning, or you don't have to set an alarm, in the past I would have told people to do this whilst on holidays. Go to bed at a certain time every single night. So let's say 10 o'clock every single night for a week. Have no alarm in your room and see what time you wake up naturally at the next day. That number is normally, when all of the other conditions are in place, and you haven't had lots to drink, or you haven't been reading tablets for an hour and a half after you went to bed. But if all the other conditions are in place and you go to bed at the same time every night for a week, how many hours that was until you naturally woke up is roughly the amount of hours sleep that you will need a night. So if you're not waking feeling refreshed, you need to look at your sleep. The things that you need to look at, I'm going to cover now. If you are still awake about 30 to 40 minutes after going to bed, something is not right either. You should be able to get over to sleep within about 10 minutes, roughly. If you're waking several times in the night and find that you can't get back to sleep, again, something is out of sync in your body. When it comes to sleep, there is a lot of focus, and I have, you know, done it myself over the course of this presentation, talked about the number of hours, but the quality of your sleep is so important, so important. Look at that now. So here's my first tip. Stick to a sleep schedule. Sleep schedules are so significant, and I often say, you know, people will have me on chatting about sleep, and you know, they'll ask me on nutrition and anxiety management and stress resilience, and they'll say to me at the end of the call, right, Claire, what are your top 3 tips? And the first thing I will say is, if I had just one tip to give on sleep, it would be to stick to a sleep schedule. We love schedules. Humans love that routine. And if you were to go to bed at the same time every single night and get up at the same time every morning, including weekends, I'm sorry to say I mightn't be very popular after this call, but your body needs that, and your body will benefit from it, because you set up your sleep and wake cycles, and it really adjusts a thing called the circadian code, which is inside your body. It's our 24-hour clock that needs to be in sync for everything just to tick along nicely. I mentioned sleep debt because people would say to me, well, you know, if I don't get great sleep during the week, Claire, what I'll do is I will just sleep on for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. One morning my husband sleeps on a Saturday morning, and my lie-in is on a Sunday morning. And that, unfortunately, is probably one of the worst things you can do. So what that does is, so let's say for talk's sake, you normally get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and on a Sunday you don't get up until 11 or 12. So let's say 12. So that's 5 hours. Your sleep drifting by 5 hours is the equivalent of you going to a new time zone, 5 hours, get on a plane, and wherever you are after 5 hours, you are shifting your body clock in a way that is not good for it. And what you will find is you've slept in on a Sunday thinking that you need it because you really need to catch up on the lost sleep over the week, but you're actually doing more harm than good, because Monday and Tuesday, the onset of sleep will come later, or Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday, that onset of sleep will come later because you've shifted your body clock out by 5 hours. And then you start this really horrible cycle of being just permanently exhausted. So I'm sorry for those of you who like your weekend lie-ins, I really am, but I would strongly suggest you relook at that and try to get up at the same time every morning and night, and including weekends, and do the same for your kids. Within about a half an hour, you can have a half an hour lie-in. So set an alarm if you need to. I find that really helps for me and the kids and my husband. We all have the alarms go off on our phones, and there's just that little reminder that it's bedtime. And I use it for a couple of things. I use it to get ready to go to bed, but also a reminder of a bedtime routine, which is really important for adults and children. And what I mean by that is just bringing everything down, dimming the lights, not easy to do in the summer, of course, but just tilt the blinds. No, running around the house screaming, out bouncing on trampolines, obviously, I mean, children, not adults. But, try to calm everything down because it sets the body up for sleep really well. And on the point of sticking to a sleep schedule, it's very good you do that with your food as well. But I suppose that's a longer conversation. What I would just say, your body loves regularity, absolutely loves it. So eat your food within reason at the same time every day, because your body's waiting for it. And if you knock it out, it starts to do things out of sync the same way as it does your sleep. So just try to keep all your patterns and rhythms aligned. Again, not going to be popular for this one, but caffeine afternoon. Caffeine is a drug. It's a psychoactive drug. It's the world's most popular drug. I think it's the most consumed commodity in the world after oil. I love it. I really, really love tea and coffee. I'm not going to lie and be very honest about that. There are days when I have had coffee late in the day because I'm working and I'm exhausted from working. But I know that I will suffer the effects of that later that night. Some things about caffeine that I think are very, very important for people to know. And it's this, it's about the timing of caffeine. So caffeine has, when drugs are measured, they're measured by their half-lives. And caffeine has a half-life of about 7 hours. And what that means is it takes roughly 7 hours for your body to get caffeine out of its system. Now, again, everyone's completely different. I might metabolize it in 6 hours. You know, my husband might be 4 hours. But generally, that's the guideline. So what that means is this. If you're suffering from sleep and you feel that you're waking up every day unrefreshed, okay, which is clear from the poll today, if you have a cup of coffee at 12 o'clock, so after this call today, let's say you have a cup of coffee, that caffeine has a quarter life of 12 hours. So what that actually means to you is that before you head up the stairs at night, if you're going to bed at midnight, or let's say you go to bed at 10 o'clock, that's like you waking up at 12 o'clock and having a quarter of a cup of coffee and heading back to sleep. So I have so many people who say to me, Claire, I've been drinking tea all my life at night before I went to bed, and it's not affecting me. And so, you know, I'll say nothing to that person in the initial stages of our work, but eventually I will, you know, work with that person to gently persuade them that it's probably a good idea to at least try, you know, cutting down on caffeine. When people know the why, and are just not told to do something, I find that they will engage with it. And the same for kids, you know, kids who don't engage with foods, fussy eaters and picky eaters, you know, explaining to a child and an adult the why of things makes it a lot easier for them to engage with it. So caffeine plays a part, and I really can't, you know, butter that up or make it any better than it is. Enjoy your coffee, but just enjoy it sensibly. It impacts your deep sleep. It affects a build-up of a chemical called adenosine, and they fight against each other, and caffeine wins out because it's stronger. It's a drug. Adenosine is something that helps you sleep, and when you have a lot of coffee, you know, your sleep becomes fragmented. And children are drinking tea and coffee. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm seeing with my own eyes. Children are drinking caffeine, and they really should not be, for reasons that I've mentioned when we looked at our kids. Alcohol at bedtime. Sorry again, but these are the facts, and I'm just giving them to you so you can make more informed choices. The thing about alcohol is this: most people, and I love a glass of red wine on a Friday evening, or, you know, Saturday evening, sometimes a Sunday evening as well, I'll be honest. But what happens a lot of the time is people never, ever understand when it comes to alcohol how big of an impact it has, because they wake up the next day thinking, I feel rough because I drank alcohol, which can happen to some people like me who drinks one glass of wine. But what happens is it prevents you from getting into a deep sleep. That sleep becomes so fractured, you wake up multiple times throughout the night. But if you have had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 glasses, you're not going to remember that. But sleep, alcohol, some people would also say to me that they take a glass of wine because it helps them sleep. I hear that so much. I take a glass of wine, or I take a glass of whatever because it helps me sleep. It doesn't. It's a sedative, and sedative is not sleep. They're two completely different things. Alcohol, a bit like sleeping tablets and so on, it's not naturalistic sleep. It's something completely different. And I find as well with alcohol that, you know, enjoy it sensibly, because for some people it can mask mental health issues. You know, some people take it because it calms them down, helps with anxiety, but actually it just exacerbates it really badly the next day or in the days to come. So enjoy alcohol, but if you're struggling with sleep, consider cutting down on it and don't take it as a nightcap. More good news, technology. So here's the thing about smartphones, okay? We all have them. This phone sits beside me. There's technology all around this table I'm at today. It's important. It's amazing. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now. I wouldn't be able to work with people remotely. I love it. But when it comes to our sleep, it is playing havoc with it. And one of the things I'd like to tell you is this. Our phones have a light called blue light, and it's emitted from all smartphones, TVs, tablets, so on. And in its natural state, blue light is really, really important to help with our sleep and wake cycle. So that's you being outside throughout the day, cloudy or not. The lux that you get from the level of light that you get from being outside, whether it's sunny or even on a cloudy day, is considerably better than what you would get from being inside. Your body needs natural blue light. It needs it really desperately to set up those sleep and wake cycles to help you sleep. So in its natural form, blue light is wonderful. But in its artificial form, which is all of the technology that we have in our homes, it's very detrimental to our sleep. It's detrimental because blue light has the same wavelength as the sun. So your body, our brains are not clever enough to know the difference between the sunlight that woke us up all of those millions of years ago versus the blue light that's coming from your phone. So it's saying there's a signal that goes to the pineal gland in your brain that says, waking up, you won't waken up, but you'll not go into that deep, deep, gorgeous, restorative sleep that is so important for health. There are lots and lots of things that you can do. My advice is to decide on a time. So if you go to bed at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, just be non-negotiable with that time and say it's done. And again, I go back to the kids to say that no child will benefit in any shape or form. Their mental health will not benefit from having blue light glaring into their little eyes and into their brains at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night before they go to bed. And yes, my own children are on technology so much more than they ever were. We're all under that pressure as parents. I know I am, and the parents I'm talking to are. It's very important not to judge ourselves or beat ourselves up. We're doing what we can in these really difficult times, and our kids need to keep in contact with their friends, and they're working online with schoolwork. But just know that that blue light that's being emitted from their phones at night is not helping them with their sleep. And if they're not getting sleep, the knock-on effect is very obvious because we've chatted about it. Excuse me, you can get, a lot of the phones now have a screen built in, which is great. And you can get these very unattractive glasses that are, I think they're called amber glasses. You can buy them on Amazon. You can really get them anywhere. They're on eBay and everywhere. Wear those in the evenings if you really need to. They're blue light blocking glasses, essentially, if you really do need to work. It really will help. Get access to early morning light. And this is really important because daylight, again, provided by Mother Nature for very good reason, we need to be out in daylight to help promote sleep and help with the onset of sleep. And so what I would say is this. I know, so we're 11 o'clock this morning. This is a fairly typical morning for me. I've been up since 6. We'll be working all afternoon. Fairly nice day out there. Probably won't get out until the evening for a walk, which I try to do every day. But if you can, and if you're in the same boat at home and you're on Zoom sessions one after the other all day, which I think all of us are, because I'm hearing that a lot from the people I'm working with and the companies I'm working with, that their staff are just Zoom call after another because everything's taking longer to do. Please just remember this, 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. So this morning at 6:30, I had a cup of tea outside and it was fairly cold, but it was nice and it is so beneficial. If you could get 20 minutes in the morning to stand outside, if you can be on a Zoom call and not speak and just have it in your ears, your body will really benefit from that and your sleep will really benefit from it as well. And some of my clients will actually take the opportunity to go outside for 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, and when they're sitting outside, they meditate. So they're getting, a double whammy. They're getting double benefits from doing it, which is really, really helpful. And it's something that I would suggest that you try to do. Keep the bedrooms cool. The reason why this is really important, and it's hard, I mentioned this now, there's so many tips I could give you, but obviously it's coming into summer. Hopefully the good weather comes back and the heat rises and, we're all enjoying that. But that can help, that can prevent a lot of us from sleeping well. So the bedroom needs to be around 18 and 18.5 degrees. Again, on Amazon or eBay, you get these wee they're almost like paper, you know, thermometers, and they're fine. They're fairly accurate. Put it in your room. Make sure that the temperature always around 18 degrees. The core temperature of our body needs to drop by a few degrees in order for us to get into a good sleep. Helps initiate sleep. It helps you stay asleep. One of the ways you can do that is to take a hot bath or a shower before bed. Probably a bath better. You know that feeling when you get out of a bath and you think that you feel exhausted, or you feel that you've slept well. I know my children sleep really well when I give them a bath, but what happens is all of the blood goes away from the core of your body out to the extremities, and it helps your body temperature drop, even though you might feel hot coming out of a bath, but it actually will help reduce the body temperature, which will help with sleep. And some people say to me, Claire, that's all fine and well, but my feet are freezing and my hands are freezing, so wear socks. They don't affect anything. Just, you know, if you struggle in a cold room, but you will get to sleep better in a cold room than you will a hot room. So get one of those little gadgets, very cheap to buy, and have it in your room. It definitely helps. So I'm conscious that we're nearing the end. Sorry that I didn't go through this as quickly as I would have liked to, but just a couple of healthy habits for life, because it's not just about one thing. It's about sleep, it's about diet, it's about nutrition, it's about your stress levels, and it's about taking time for yourself as well. So plan your meals, make sure you have food available, drink plenty of water, try to get 25 different vegetables into your diet a week. Every single colour provides a different nutrient and a different health benefit to your body. Exercise if you can, even if it's 10-minute walk one way and 10-minute walk back. That's all it needs to be. Set your standard, your target low if you're only starting out, and make sleep a priority. Make sleep a focus in your life. Whether you feel that you sleep well, a lot of you said that you get 7 to 9 hours a night, but as I said, it's not just about quantity, it's about quality. And if you're getting 7 to 9 hours sleep a night, but you're drinking loads of caffeine, or you're needing alcohol to get to sleep, excuse me, or you're reading your phone half the night, that will impact on the quality of your sleep. And just one small thing. So I hope there was one thing that you took away from this today. I will be happy if you did. Sleep is so important. I'm so passionate about it because I see the impact that it has on many people's lives. I know the outcome of poor sleep, and as you can tell, I'm very, very passionate about our children and the fact that they're not getting enough of it, because the statistics show that it is not in their best interest to be having the lifestyles that they do now. And thank you very much for listening. You can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Clare Hegarty Nutrition, and you can check out, I have courses available at the moment, Busy Moms, Healthy Kids, which focuses on the moms and the kids. And if you're really with a lot of information, please drop me an email at any point in time at that email address or any of the channels I mentioned. I'd like to talk to you. So thanks. I hope you all sleep well tonight. And if there's any questions, just let me know, and I'll be happy to answer in the last few minutes.
Great. Claire, thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate it. Fabulous information. So much content there, you know, really looking at the sleep schedule and all the diet, everything that goes into your body, you know, it's really, really one thing that we really have to be more conscious about. I know, in this busy world of ours, but really, actually quickly, we do have a few questions for you.
Okay.
So, if you have a minute, we have, great, from Sinead here. What is your view on caffeine-free tea and decaf coffee? Are they okay to have afternoon?
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a great question. So the important thing to remember about decaffeinated is that it's not uncaffeinated. So it's about 25%. So again, having, remember what I said about the half-life. So think about having a quarter of a cup of tea, decaffeinated tea, at 8 o'clock at night For some people, it might be okay, Sinead, but for others, it may impact. I would say yes, I am a decaffeinated fan. Anytime I want to have tea or coffee in the afternoon, I will always go for the decaffeinated option. So yeah, there's plenty available, and actually over time they taste as nice.
Great. And actually that was the same from Carolee, and one that she was asking to extend on that was, do you keep caffeinated versions for the morning time and then you could go decaf later?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's really great to do is to have a little bit of a break from it every so often. I know that is hard, because what happens immediately is that you get headaches and withdrawal symptoms. But as I said, it's a drug, so you understand why that will be happening. So try to reduce and maybe have a week where you don't have any caffeine. But most definitely have your caffeine early in the morning. Enjoy your cup of coffee or tea in the morning. That's fine. But if you're having difficulty sleeping, you probably need to look at that or reconsider it. And in general, I would say to people, try not to have caffeinated teas and coffees after 12 noon to promote good sleep at night.
Yeah, I think we're all about the teas and coffees. The questions. There's just one more. Is tea much better than coffee? And Claire, have you any advice maybe for menopause and night sweats, if anybody's experiencing?
Yeah, I mean they're two different things.
Two different questions there.
So what I would say is, when it comes to was it types of teas and coffee?
Is tea much better than coffee?
Well, you see, really, coffee has, I should have probably mentioned this, when I started to talk about it, coffee does have benefits. Good coffees have a level of antioxidants in them. It can be health promoting. There's some studies that show that actually caffeine is not as bad as it's made out to be. So remember, we're talking about this in the context of sleep. I would say that tea, again, tea has certain health properties as well. Green tea, for example, has an ingredient in it that is really, really good for health. But the thing about tea, I would say, and we're big tea drinkers in Ireland. So the range of people I work with, mostly actually more of them prefer tea than coffee. Tea has something in it called tannin, and tannin is known as, we would classify it as an anti-nutrient. So what I would say to people, and I find this with older people, to be honest, Claire, is that older people love to have their tea in the evening, as in their dinner in the evening, and a cup of tea with it. But because tea is an anti-nutrient, you've had a lovely big stir fry, lots of lovely vegetables and so on, and then you're taking a cup of tea. That tea is basically going into your system and working against those nutrients that you've just eaten. So my advice on tea is, yes, like caffeine, you can consume it sensibly. It has benefits, but don't chase, don't have tea after you've just had something to eat, because it can actually destroy the nutrients that you've consumed.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of a cup of tea and a biscuit, isn't it, after dinner or something?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, let me just check and see if we've got any more questions there. If you like to read, there's a good question here. If you like to read on Kindle before bed to wind down, would those blue light blocking glasses work to allow you to do that without disturbing you?
Yeah. What I would say is, what I'm going to be honest and say to you is, you're better with a book. Now I know that, and I had a Kindle for years, and now we'll buy books. So many books are available online, on eBay, there's a brilliant bookstore on eBay called World of Books, where I can get my nutrition books at a fraction of the price. Some of the stuff I read actually would easily put you to sleep. So if anybody wants something to help them to go to sleep, I can give them a nutrition book. But what I would say is, try to read a book if you can. And if it is a Kindle, that blue, it's not completely blocking it out, but it will help. So yes, if you are reading a Kindle at night and you find that you need it to unwind or go to sleep, then get the glasses. The other thing that I recommend for people who struggle with sleep, and it really helps, is sometimes to do a brain dump in a journal. What prevents people from getting over to sleep sometimes, Claire, is the amount of stuff that they have floating around in their heads. So, and it can be hard, it can really be hard at the moment. Lots of different worries and stresses floating around. But sometimes if you get that out on a piece of paper and just, write it down and be done with it, it helps some people get over to sleep. So journaling, a real book as opposed to a Kindle book. But if you are reading a Kindle, get those blue light blocking glasses, which are very easy to find online.
Great. Oh, great, Claire. That's super. That's a good question, actually, that. But yeah, no, that's fabulous. I don't know whether we have, I think that's all the questions. Sinead's just said, thank you so much, Claire. Really thought-provoking morning and lots to think about. And I think I can reiterate that. Claire, that was a great webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
No, fantastic. We will, of course, be uploading. This is recorded, so it will be uploaded onto the Women in Business webinar page on our website too. You know, if any of our members will follow that up if anybody's missed it. So no, that's great. Lots of thanks here coming in for you, Claire. So
thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for watching.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
Great. There's lots of thanks there coming through for you now.
Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, everyone. Thank you.